What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Talks with Jakub, where I interview doers, achievers, and go-getters and how they created their own luck and became successful. And today we are here with Bryan McDonald from Chicago. Bryan helps entrepreneurs, founders, and sales leaders achieve the revenue growth they have been chasing after. He has been in business development and new revenue growth industry for his whole 20-year career. He brings that experience as well as rare and reliable skills that 1% income earners use in their business and in sales. These techniques and strategies aren't found in any books, YouTube videos, or TED-style talks. He serves clients with ambitious yearly and multi-yearly revenue goals by helping them to fulfill that ambition. So if you're an entrepreneur, executive, or consultant and you want to dramatically improve your sales or revenue, this episode is for you. So welcome to the show, Bryan.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. It's just exciting to be here.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Usually I talk with coaches, or sometimes I talk with sales experts as well. So I think that this will be a perfect fit for my listeners. And I have a first question. You say that you learn uncommon knowledge in a common sense world. Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
So, great question. So, a lot of the things that people think are, common sense don't really make sense, right? Like, in the times that what do you say?
Such as?
So, let's say, right now, as we record this, we're going through a really interesting time in global society with this pandemic. And what a lot of people are going to try to do is like hunker down. They're going to try to be more conservative and slow down a little bit, like watch things. And actually the thing to do is the opposite, right? Common sense says, yes, don't do anything, right? But what we're telling our clients are, look, now is the time to strategize, to put something in place, to actually get aggressive, reinvest in your strategy, reinvest in your people, reinvest in process, because you'll come out of this in 6 months with momentum versus other people who are going to start in 6 months this, right? So it feels a little opposite, or it feels backwards. And it's uncommon knowledge, right? But when the people that do those things that I'm talking about will thrive and not just survive.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you were saying that. I heard very interesting and similar thing on Tony Robbins' podcast. He was talking about the companies who work through holidays. So in December, January. They are usually way ahead the competitors. But right now we have even longer period of time that you can get ahead. So I would definitely leverage that. So
exactly.
So Bryan, let's take us a little bit back. So what is your background? Where do you come from? And tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Jacob. So like you said, my whole career has been in business development and and new revenue growth. So, I had always been brought on to companies in sales roles where I wasn't given a book of business. I had to create it out of nothing, and I had a lot of success doing that. But everything always wasn't that way. Work out that perfectly, I should say. So in 2008, I was in the mortgage industry. I had built up a business inside of a mortgage brokerage. I was paying assistants out of my pocket, and the market crashed, and it fell below. It fell out. The bottom fell out from under me. Wow. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying now is I just went to be conservative during that time, and I didn't figure out how to pivot and strategize, and it tanked me. I lost all the real estate that I had. I lost almost everything, and I had to basically reinvent myself. And eventually what came out of that is On Purpose Growth grew out of that after, a couple years. In 2013, we started On Purpose Growth, and it's just been, lights out since then. So
Yes. Looking back, do you see it as a valuable experience, or is it still painful to think about it?
I wouldn't be in the place I am today if I didn't go through that. And it's not as painful as it used to be. You can approach life in two different ways. That you can fail at things, or you can just learn from things. And I've made the choice to learn and not fail, right? That just gave me going through that just gave me a bunch of things to learn off of. And now I'm smarter, and now I know how to approach things. So I choose learning over failure.
Fail forward.
Exactly.
So what was the biggest lesson from the crash in 2008? You learned how to pivot, or how to be more calm in these tough situations?
I think it's the overall mindset. That mindset trumps anything else. That with the right mindset, I can develop the strategy or the plan, so I can take the right actions. Because back then, my mind was in the gutter. I had this loser mentality that the world's falling apart and there's nothing I can do. And I was even saying to a friend over the weekend, I said, now I realize that I have the choice to win in this. And I can choose to win, or just survive, or possibly fail. And I'm making the choice to win. And that mindset is allowing me to come up with the right actions, the right tactics to get to where I want to go.
It's a huge difference when you stop being. You really take control of your life back to your hands. It's and not being a victim.
Oh yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
Brian, you also talk about interesting topic quite often, which is the art of listening in B2B sales. Let's expand on that a little bit, because I think so many sales professionals, they do the mistake that they want to learn all these techniques, still looking for the best sales script and so on. But I think sometimes it's just best to listen to understand, not listen to respond. So what is your take on that?
I mean, it's huge. I'll start here. This is the mindset, right? And then we'll move into the tactic. The mindset is that I have a firm belief that prospects and clients want to and do tell us exactly what to offer them. We just have to be listening, and we have to ask the right questions. So a lot of times they don't know how to tell us, right? They want to, but they don't know how to tell us, and they don't know how to articulate it. So great listeners understand how to pay attention to that, ask the right questions to get the right the information that they're looking for. You don't necessarily, having a script, to me, well, I'll rephrase. Leaning on a script too much doesn't allow you to listen.
Yes.
Right? Internalizing the script is really what should be done, right? You can start off with it. That's what we tell clients all the time is mindset over technique. You don't need to necessarily use the words that I'm using. Let's make sure you have the mindset, and the way you're going to say it is the way you say it, right? Listening is key, because our prospects and clients and the people that we serve aren't really looking for the thing that we sell or do. What they are looking for is to get the help that they're looking for to solve whatever higher purpose they're needing. And it's finding out that information through listening is key. And if you stay in tactics and tools and things like that, you're going to be commoditized and lumped in with everybody else, and you have a lower probability of winning. When you listen well and you ask great questions to serve the other person,
Yes.
then you'll set yourself apart. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Then I have like so many notes I want to expand on. So if you're listening and you really want to understand, you're almost like a doctor. You're creating the diagnosis,
Yes.
right? So imagine the situation that you come to an appointment with a perfect to give you the perfect solution after asking all these questions, right? And I think salesperson should do exactly the same because, as you said, if we will understand what is the pain point, then we can deliver a solution. Not like try to deliver them the solution based on what we think is the best, because that doesn't allow us to sell on value. It's really about the cost. And I think if you were selling on value, which is another topic you talk about, is it allows you to make more money, make your clients more committed, and so on. So, what do you think is the thing that holds people back from listening? Why do you think most people don't know how to listen?
Oh, self-awareness is key.
Okay.
So too many times the internal conversation in people's mind gets in the way. So they only stop talking to listen, and they don't as well shut off the internal conversation that's going on, because that's there, right? You have to be present with people. Like literally, like when I'm with prospects, I put this imaginary bubble around us, and it's just me and that person no matter what's going on. And I've honed the skill of shutting down, or what I've even done, shutting down that internal voice. What I've even done is I'll picture if there's a chair next to me, or even if there's a chair next to me, when I sit down, what I do is I basically imagine that internal voice is next to me, sitting in that chair, and I turn the chair backwards and I say, I appreciate you. I know you're here, but I'm just going to set you aside until this conversation's over. And then I focus in on the person. So I go through this mental exercise to acknowledge the internal voice and set it aside so it doesn't creep up. And then I can just listen to people, because what happens is our own internal listening also adds biases to what people are telling us.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if somebody said, I wanted to succeed, and I can say, oh, I'll help you succeed, I can't attach my own meaning of success to that. I need to find out what their definition of success is, right? So this internal bias, internal dialogue that's going on, we need to set that aside, because people are just not, there's a lot of people out there that just are not talking, and they're waiting to say something. They've got a rebuttal coming up, and you can see it building up inside of them trying to come out. So we have to shut all that stuff off.
Let's take a step back to that chair. You said that you will turn it away. Where did you learn it? I mean, this is not a common knowledge. It sounds almost like some NLP technique.
It could be, right? We're very visual people, right? So, and majority of society is, I'm even greater. So when I create mental pictures and mental action, it usually sticks. And I just had a mentor of mine who had mentioned that he did that. He was also teaching me how to become an advanced listener. And and he said, here's a suggestion. And he just made that suggestion.
Okay.
Right. Because it worked. It sounded good in the moment. So sometimes when I struggle with different strategies or different concepts, I'll create a mental picture around it. That's a trigger, like a trigger. And then I use that trigger to stay in a certain mode, state, whatever you want to call it.
So what is your preparation when you go to a meeting, to a business meeting, sales meeting? What is your preparation? What do you do upfront? What is your routine?
Great question. So I give myself at least a 5-minute buffer between walking into a building where I'm gonna have a meeting, or 5 minutes before I hop on a Zoom call, or whatever it is. And I remind myself, what's my intention? What is and my intention always is to listen and serve this person, no matter what the outcome is. Right? I detach myself from the outcome. It doesn't mean that I don't care. It just means I detach myself from the outcome so I can serve them. And then I say to myself, what is the best outcome for me in this situation? And what's the best outcome for them? And have that out in the future as possible outcomes, not the only one. So if I set myself in that direction of that intention, we most likely are going to hit one in a way that serves both me and or the prospect. And then what I also do is I compartmentalize anything else going on. So I reset my mood into one of wonder, one of hope, one of caring, like all this positive stuff. And it doesn't matter if, like, I could have got off the phone with my wife and we were in a fight. I set that aside, because communication communication is very much so mostly nonverbal. So I need to communicate non-verbally to the person that I care, that I am listening, and mood is directly tied to nonverbal stuff.
And I mean, if you go there with the intention to help them and to serve them and to listen, it would be actually making them a huge disservice if you'd be influenced by the negative stuff which happened maybe 10 minutes ago, right?
Exactly. 100%.
You also mentioned that you want to detach yourself from the outcome, which is, I would say, quite unusual in the sales industry, because most of the sales professionals go there to want to sell. So what do you think is the biggest outcome of doing this? What is the goal? Why are you detaching yourself from the outcome?
Because I win more when I detach myself from the outcome.
Win more in terms of closing the sale.
Yep, 100%. Because that's non-verbally communicated to a prospect, so they know that I'm just there to help them. Because what happens with attaching yourself to the income or to the outcome, it having to win gets in the way of winning, right? The talk, like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I'm losing, I'm losing, right? Like, although when you're detached, you don't hear that stuff going on. It's not that I don't want to win. My goal is to win, but I detach myself from the outcome. So I can win along the way. It's one of those things. It's like, it seems opposite to actually help you. It's actually the thing that helps most.
Because if you would be way too focused on the outcome that you need to sell, you would be maybe too pushy or too needy, right?
Yep.
It's similar like when you see guys in the bar trying to pick up a girl, and they really want to do it, they really want to make it happen. It usually doesn't happen. You need to just don't care almost a little about the outcome, but just to have a conversation, just to listen.
Exactly. And when you prepare yourself, and you have all of the foundational things built, and and your sound in all of the, you know, the basics. You don't have to think while you're performing, if you will, like in a sales conversation. The things just come up, and from that state is where you win most, right? You just things out. You've internalized things. You just pull them out. I just had a prospect tell me recently, a guy that joined our group coaching about 2 months ago. At the end of our second sales meeting, he goes, "You know what, Bryan, this is great because I don't feel like I'm being sold."
Yes.
And I was selling him the whole time, right? And he didn't feel sold at all. So you know, that's really the state that I'm, you know, working to get into all the time with all these tactics, all these strategies. That's
There are four levels of learning, and I think what you're describing is unconscious competent, right?
Yeah.
That you do it even without thinking about it. I heard about this in from Jordan Belfort,
Oh yeah.
in a straight line system, and yeah, it's like tying your shoes. You don't think about it, and it just happens.
Yeah, that's exactly, you know, what should happen for everybody. That's the best state in the world to be in.
When does the sales process start for you? What is when you want to sell something to somebody? When does it usually start?
It starts it starts before you ever get into a sales process with somebody, that your traditional sales process. When you start looking for prospects, that's when the sales process starts. You have to be in that mindset, because before you actually even engage them, in the act of approaching to them, your sales process is starting. So you know, we talk a lot about living in the process of your prospects and of your clients, and you know, to do that, you actually have to be in their mindset prior to that. So that's why I say, like, the sales process starts way before that. You need to already be in that mode to find the right clients, spend more time with the right people and less time with the wrong people.
It's you can clearly see the difference on networking events when somebody goes there with an intention to meet like specific people, because he prepared or she prepared up front to meet with this person, and then people, you know, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
You can see it so transparently.
Exactly. You know, and well said, because at the same time, the most unprepared person you can identify right away, because and here's what I mean by that, is they're just handing out their business cards as fast as they can to anybody they see. And that to me is a sign of being unprepared and a scarcity mindset.
Fear of missing out, so I will give the business card to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So when you go to networking events, how do you do it? Do you go prepared? Do you want to spend just time with 1-2 people?
Yeah, you know what? I talk to a lot of job seeker groups about this, right? Because they got to be in sales mode and when they're networking, and the format is very similar to you know, preparing for a prospect meeting. I set my intention, and what's my intention? You know, I'm going to go in the room to meet people that fit these types of categories, or people that, and if those are, let's say when I reference these type of categories, those are prospects. But I also think about, okay, if I don't run into any of those people, who are the people that my prospects are connected to? And maybe we can refer business and people. And if they don't fit that category, I'm not going to engage them for a while. So I actually remind myself, okay, here's what you're going to do to get out of a conversation you could be stuck in, right? And it's just telling people like, hey, I don't network or sell to anybody that you need. I'm sure there's people there that in this room that you know, should connect to, and I'm not one. So I'm just going to move on, right? It's like a polite, in their best interest, I move on.
And I mean, it is polite. You're not wasting their time, right? They can create more opportunities for themselves.
Exactly.
Now, once you're prepared, once you are on the networking event, how do you approach the person?
Uh, Great question. I, I do my best to ask people for real-time introductions in that room because it's a much smoother transition. So if I find out that there's a prospect in the room, I'll see if anybody that I know knows them, uh, and ask them like, hey, like walk over here and introduce me, right?
Mhm.
Kind of that as the transfer of credibility from that, from me to the other
Yes.
person, and then I just go into listening mode, right? Um, I just ask people, so I ask people what's going on or tell me a little bit about them and their business,
Hmm.
and just striking up a conversation. And this is internalized, so the reason why I'm struggling with that, this is I go.
Unconscious competent, you don't think about it. It just
Yeah,
happens.
no, I don't think about it because, and this is what I was figuring I should say, is I know that there is a principle in this world that says, and I'll ask you, what's the number one thing people like to talk about?
Themselves.
Exactly. Okay. So if they're not talking about themselves and they're thinking about something, what do you think they're thinking about?
What you can do for them.
Yes, and that's kind of granular. On the
Yes, yes.
higher level, it's they're thinking about themselves, right?
Okay.
They're thinking about themselves. So I walk around in a mood of curiosity, and I start asking people about them, and I become genuinely interested in them,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
That is the greatest and easiest bridge into um, having them understand what I do,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, and letting them know that I'm here to serve, not just to sell. And a lot of times is when you learn about somebody and they ask you, so what do you do? All I say is I help people grow their revenue, and I shut.
A
And then if
little
they'll,
hook. Okay,
yep,
how?
exactly,
You get them
exactly,
engaged, right? To these
get them
micro
engaged,
commitments. So yeah.
exactly. And then they'll either say something verbally that will be kind of a key kind of notice to me of like, hey, this person wants to learn more. Or a lot of times it's a nonverbal. They'll just go, like that, like, tell me more about the right? Uh, so it's just noticing those things and just, and going in the mindset, if I go in there to just sell, I'm going to be a detractor and not an attractor. So I want to be an attractor.
Hmm.
Uh, don't want to detract people.
Hmm. I think people go there to sell. Again, you can see it, right? That they're in the interaction just to sell. And I don't really know why is that. Why doesn't everybody know this? Like that you should be genuinely interested and listen to the people before you start thinking what's in it for me, right? So, are there any like good resources you would recommend to learn how to do it, how to do these things you just mentioned?
Oh yeah, there. Man, Jed Blunt makes a book. I'm looking at my books. Um, Jed Blunt makes a book called Fanatical Prospecting, I believe it is. Uh, Phenomenal. Um, the Go Giver by I forget have you ever read that book?
No, no, no.
Oh, I forget the name of that author. The Go Giver. That's a phenomenal book on the perspective of going out there and networking and finding out how you can help other people and and getting help in return. That was phenomenal. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there to get in the right mindset.
Hmm.
Uh, Question-based selling is another book that is great.
Yes.
Um, Actually, my friend Tyler Menke recently wrote a book called "The Pirate's Guide to Sales."
Hmm.
The best overall book on sales that I've come across. And Tyler
Really?
coach. Tyler is not he's not doing presentations on this stuff. He's a sales guy that had to learn a lot, and he wrote a book on all the best ingredients to. It is a phenomenal book.
I would like to add one more book. I recently read. It's quite a new book, maybe 2 months old. It's from James Carberry. It's called Content-Based Networking. It's basically about that you create content with your perfect prospects together. It can be an article, it can be a video, it can be interview, anything, and you use it to like create a relationship with the person. And I've been doing it for the last 3 years, and it's incredible. People don't usually say no to creating content together, and it's great strategy to get in touch, even with the high-profile people. It's perfect.
Oh, I love it. That makes complete sense, right? Yeah. I mean, I've done podcasts with prospect profiles, myself, and it's the relationship. It's a great place to start a relationship.
And I mean, you have a podcast, so most of podcasters focus on the audience's side a lot, like that how many people listen to my podcast. But I think the most overlooked aspect of podcasting is actual relationship you build with the person you talk to.
Oh, 100%. Through podcasting, I have added to my network a phenomenal other network that was never there. I mean, that I can, reach out to is just this world. It's amazing.
It is. Okay, Bryan, I have one last topic I would like to cover. So it's about like selling on value and not on price. What is the difference?
So if you're always focused, if you're worried and you're always focused on price, you will continually get commoditized. And price is the worst negotiating point to be on, right?
Race to the bottom.
you're late, right? So one of the strategies that we talk to clients about is you should never actually present a proposal that you haven't already spoken about and talked about the contents, and the proposal is just a formality of signing something. And what that means is you have to build value in that sales process and that sales conversation. So price is not the only thing to negotiate on. And the reason why is that people who have the problems we solve and they really want to solve them, they're going to be more focused on the confidence they have in you and the confidence they have in whatever you sell.
Yes.
More than the price. Because they're in a state where this just needs to get fixed. And they're just looking for somebody that understands them, understands the problem, and that what that means is you're staying in the conversation of value, of what your value is prior to the price, because people just take the price and attach it to the value that you've created. Right? So if you're not creating value, I think you're dead.
Yes.
You can't, you can't serve people in the way that you should be able to serve people. And the price should ultimately be, how do I describe this? I'm having a hard time articulating it. It should just be, once value was created so well, you should just be able to say, here's the price, and they, right?
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, exactly.
Right? I don't know any other way to articulate that other than
I get it. So it might get quite simple when you're selling something which directly influences their revenue. For example, all right, I can do this and it can increase your revenue by 10%. Right now you're doing 100K a month. So with this quick fix, you can do 110, right?
Right.
Then your value can be easily like 20K or 30K because the investments will be back so fast. So that's a quite not easy, but easy to understand what selling on value means. But what if you're selling something which is not easily described in terms of money? For example, some coaching, right? So you're selling some, I don't know, fear of flying, right? So I
Yeah.
will teach you how to stop being afraid to step on an airplane. So how would you price that?
So I'll give you a specific example. So
Okay.
for our group and individual coaching, the price is the price, right? So everybody invests the same dollar amount. And I still have to create value. So the price is just, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
For instance, I was working with a gentleman in the insurance space who, when he came to me, his problem was he didn't have a $1 million book of business, and he needed some coaching. So if I stayed in the coaching conversation, I'd be focused on price, right? So I started asking him, if that's the destination, building $1 million book of business, what's getting in his way?
Mm-hmm.
And we started pulling all these things out. And I said, well, why does all this matter? Why does it all matter? And then he went on to tell me this. He said, Bryan, I have a degenerative disease that I get migraines. And at some point in time, like every so often, I just can't work. And I've got kids who are about to go into college and a wife, and I need to make sure that they're taken care of. And if I can build $1 million book of business, I know that all that's going to be taken care of. So right there, understanding that, and and then he said, okay, how do we do this? And I basically told him the investment is X for me to help you make sure that your wife is taken care of, your kids are taken care of, and you can build this $1 million book of business. And he goes, when do we start? Yeah. Right? So that I created value in understanding and listening to what problem he was actually solving. And it wasn't the $1 million book of business. It was the taking care of my family and all this other stuff, right? So when I'm selling coaching, I'm not selling coaching. If that
yeah, you're selling them on that future destination they want to reach, and then the coaching and the price, it's not price. Coaching is just a vehicle to get them there.
Exactly. While my competition is trying to sell, monthly coaching at $99 a month, I'm helping somebody figure out how to take care of his family. Two completely different offers and two completely different values.
Yes. And I mean, with a higher price point, there's another effect, right? They have more skin in the game, so they take more action there. They have more accountability. I know it from my personal experience when I invested 5K in the coaching, and it was one of the best decisions I've made. It made me like, I just know that I needed to make the money back, even for this reason, right? But if it would be like $20, it would be like, okay, another thing which failed.
Exactly, right? That's the difference. And for me, in what I do and in what you do, and the investment is fully proportionate to the commitment that somebody has to themselves.
Yes.
Right? It's not about the dollar amount. It's about the commitment to them actually taking action and making something change. That's all it is.
Yes. And then you can even play with the price, right? Then the price almost becomes something which is totally fluid. You can try to triple it and then see, okay, it worked.
Exactly.
It's so interesting.
Exactly. If you're providing value, people will pay a lot for it.
But even if you provide enough value, you're selling on value. Sometimes the objection will come. Okay, I think it's too much. How do you overcome that?
Sometimes I'll say, okay, it doesn't sound like you're committed to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
If investment is totally proportionate to somebody's commitment, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe that that's usually what happens, you know. And or I say, look, then maybe we're not a good fit. Maybe this is the wrong time.
Yeah, the reason why I ask this question is because sometimes people use price just to um, easy way out of not telling the true reason, right?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
If here's how I classify that. It's my job to pull that out early and during
Yes.
this process, right? So if it comes out at the end, it's my fault that
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't get it. So I need to be looking for it. So I need to find out what people's commitment level are and is during the sales process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, it's not going to be an issue towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to say something like, okay, if price wouldn't be an issue, everything else is totally fine.
Yeah,
And then you can maybe find out that they have problems with something completely different than the price, and then
yep.
you can see the real reason.
Here's another thing, a little backwards thinking. If I'm getting, how do I say this? So I've made a commitment to myself and others that I interact with on a sales process that I always tell them the truth when I'm buying something, because what that correlates into, I always have a better probability of it coming out when I'm selling something to somebody. So if I say this to people, it's like, if you don't want to pay me for help, don't expect clients
Yes.
to pay you.
Uh-huh.
Right? Like anybody that I know that's making $1 million a month and went out and got some help or support, they paid $100,000 for it, hands down, no question asked.
Mm-hmm.
The people making, $5,000 a month trying to make $1 million a month, the reason why they're not is because they're not putting their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
Other people to do what they won't.
In other words, become the client you want to attract, right?
100%, 100%, and you'll find more of them.
Yes. And yeah, it's almost like magic. When I purchased the coaching, I start seeing more people interested in what I do, but not like these tire kickers. They buy $39 ebook, but real people who are ready to spend money, which is amazing. I mean, it's quite important to do like in other aspects as well, not only spending money, but for example, in Europe, usually or in Czech Republic, you usually pay after it's delivered, right?
Okay.
And the problem is that people pay maybe after 14 days when the invoice is due. So if I want other people to pay me immediately, I need to pay them immediately. And I started doing this, and it started happening to me. I started attracting people who are paying immediately, which is
Exactly.
it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other saying is, be the change in the world that you want to see, right? It's got to come to us first, not anywhere else.
Yes.
And that's, and even, going back to this whole, value thing, for all our clients, we don't enter into long-term contracts. We tell them it's month to month. It's my job to add enough value that you stick around. And I've had clients for years.
Mm-hmm.
They can leave anytime they want, and they're choosing not to. Actually, I'll even say it this way. The highest performers, the people creating the best results, stick around, and they don't necessarily need us. We're just there as a check and balance. And the people that need us most run away after like 2 months.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's not a magic pill.
That's a bold approach and confident, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you know Brad Lee. He owns a Lightspeed VT company. It's a e-learning company, and he does exactly the same. While others are locking their customers in these like year or 3-year contracts, he's exactly that month to month.
Month to month.
If I stop providing value, I don't deserve your business. I don't
Right.
deserve your money.
Exactly. 100%.
Wow. All right, Bryan. If people like what they're hearing, if maybe they wanna grow their revenue or hire you as a coach, join your group coaching, what is the best place where I can find more about you and about your company?
So you can go to our website, onpurposegrowth.com, or I'm all over LinkedIn. That's how we met. So linkedin.com/in/McDonald Bryan spelled with a Y. That's the best place. I was on there right before we started recording. I'm going to get back on there when we're done. Right now, those are the best places.
Perfect. All right, guys. So onpurposegrowth.com or linkedin.com/in/McDonald Bryan with Y. Bryan, this has been wonderful. This has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience?
I would just like to say thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you having me on, man. It was an honor. It was fun, and I look forward to serving your audience.
Absolutely. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we can do it in the future again.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed it. It was fun. All right.
Cool.
Bryan, thanks a lot, and guys, please, if we shared some value here, just share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can either send them the YouTube link, or if you're listening to it as a podcast, just share the podcast episode with your friends who are working in sales or who have companies there which might need a revenue growth. So, Bryan, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for joining, and until next time.
Thanks, Jacob.